And boom goes the dynamite.
Good afternoon and welcome to Daily Dive, your official home of Monday through Friday live lacrosse talk. I am producer Michael Carbellis, filling in for Renee Washington, our wonderful host, who is off for the remainder of this week. We wish her nothing but the best in her other endeavors this week, obviously. Our top story will be presented by Daily Dive Store, found on the link tree in our social media bios. Beanies, hoodies, you name it, support the only Monday through Friday live lacrosse show right here. So let's get into it. The Vancouver Warriors have traded star Mitch Jones to the Philadelphia Wings in exchange for Steph Charbonneau, a 2023 first-round draft pick, and a 2024 second-round draft pick. Now, Mitch Jones, of course, led the Warriors coming into the end of last week with 35 points ahead of Keegan Ball, who had 33, of course, or who has 33, of course. But Vancouver is only 1-6, and myself and Renee have talked about this. How far would they let this thing get out of control? And let's be real, 20-7 against Panther City is, no offense to the team in Texas, about as low as it gets. You cannot have that happen. You have the Las Vegas Desert Dogs who stormed back to beat the Warriors. You had, before the season, Keegan Ball was named the most underrated player by his NLL peers, and that went by the wayside very quickly. Meanwhile, Philadelphia is the fourth lowest scoring team this season at just 56 goals. So they add Mitch Jones, as you see on your left and my right here. You see they add a very potent scorer. Now, Mitch did miss some games a couple of times with the Warriors. He, of course, played with the Bandits for many years and started off with the Washington Stealth. But in 2016, had 33 points. 2017, 69, then 81. Goes to Vancouver, goes 83, 74. Then, of course, 26, and this year was back up to 35. But again, when you're losing, even your best players are on the market. The same thing going on in Georgia right now. Is Lyle Thompson up for sale? And who knows, is Keegan Ball up for sale at this point? To be fair, everybody should be. You can point your fingers all you want to, but you just don't know who's to blame for it all. So why not just start over? They're finally doing so. Now, Vancouver has given up the most goals at 111, which means that by adding Steph Charbonneau, and of course, who's a defender, and of course adding the first-round draft pick, which is the key this year, and even a second next year is not bad at all. But adding those draft pick compensation along with a defender starts the rebuild in a good way. And people are going to say, well, Philadelphia won the trade here because now they have Ben McIntosh. They have Joe Resetarits. They have Trevor Baptiste, and now they have this guy. This guy is an unrestricted free agent at the end of this season. Who knows if he resigns in Philadelphia? In fact, Mitch Jones would still have to commute to games because he still lives in a different area. And as we know, unfortunately, National Lacrosse League and even lacrosse players in general do not make a lot of money. They should, but they don't. So traveling costs are an issue here. So I believe initially Philadelphia might look pretty good. But here's another thing about the Wings. I don't think the Wings have solved anything here. They might have added, a good 5 more points a game. But the Wings, to me, have not been competitive, at least in my estimation. I don't know if adding Mitch Jones becomes the Dane Dobby effect, where at 36 years old, Dane Dobby shooting 31% is still one of the best scorers. It's kind of like Kevin Durant to the Warriors. Or is this more like Candace Parker to the Las Vegas Aces? a WNBA reference for you. Is Mitch Jones going to contribute that much immediately? A reminder that this team, are they going all in at this point? We'll have to see. Philadelphia's got a very good roster in terms of names, but names do not equal production, so it'll be interesting to see moving forward. Let's get to some other news here. As you know, yesterday, you probably have heard by now if you're a lacrosse fan, the PBLA folded after about a month of activity, about 4 games. There were times when myself and Renee said that they had packed the arena. Steven Stamp was involved, doing a good job on the broadcast. Lacrosse TV, though, as invested as they were, every tweet was about this league. After they fold, it's 2 podcasts and no talk of it whatsoever. So what's going on Lacrosse TV? We got to wonder, hey, come on now. I thought it was interesting. Now, it is a very terrible thing what happened with the PBLA, because we know, as I mentioned, lacrosse players do not get that much money. And there's not a lot of opportunities for lacrosse players. There's no farm system. And there's a bunch of junior A's. But let's read this here, the statement. The PBLA has made a very difficult decision to postpone the remainder of the season. I love the word postpone, full disclosure, because it seems like they lost money. And now we're just hoping it returns. It could return. It was a good product. Let's move on with this. Our vision is to implement fast, physical, safe, and exciting experience for our fans and players. Great typo. We believe we have been able to create this experience, true, but we feel there are elements we need to improve upon. For that reason, we are halting the season to reorganize the league and team operations, which there's the money part of it. We believe this will provide the best chance to sustain our vision in the future, which is making money, of course. The PBLA has decided to immediately cancel business operations. So the postponing remainder of the season, does that mean that if this thing comes back, we're going to go where we left off? It'd be great if that happened, but there's a lot of wordplay in this one single statement, and it's pretty sad. So I don't understand the wording of this all. It's very poorly worded. It's a nice, quick statement. But as James Chadwick, one of the players, said, was fun while it lasted. Great tweet, great mic drop, by the way. But it is sad that the PBLA has to go because, as I said, I'll be honest again, lacrosse players do not get paid a lot to do what they do. And there's not many opportunities to grow the game. And the PBLA was doing a very good job for about 4 weeks. I hope it comes back. I really do. And we'll talk to someone coming up next who was a fan of lacrosse and who obviously liked the PBLA. But he's also got bigger things to do, like talk about NLL and broadcast with Saskatchewan Rush. When I come back, friend of the show, Cody Janzen, is back on. He had a great line on Alex Bouquet's save. We got to ask him about that as well. It's the Daily Dive. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Our big guest is presented by Fanatics. Go to the link in our link tree on our social media bios. Help out the show by purchasing all your NLL merch through our Fanatics link. Thank you so much. And thank you, Cody Janzen, for joining the show once again. Welcome back, Mr.
Hey,
One Liner.
happy to be here.
Absolutely. I'm happy to have you here as well. Wish Renee could have come, but as we know, she has awesome things to do as well outside of this show. So, Cody Janzen, I want to first ask, before you even break down the game, what was going through your mind as you and your analysts there are watching Alex Bouquet make ridiculous saves in the midst of like a 5 second period? And what is the line you used about? Tell us the line. It was fantastic.
Well, I'm pretty sure I dropped a call Crime Stoppers in there. That's
Yes.
that's that's it's got to be a pretty damn good save to drop one of those. But it's all spur of the moment, right? We're having
That was
fun.
great.
I think John's a great broadcast partner as well as Sabine. So we're having some fun in the booth, and you don't get to see saves like that too often. So that was pretty incredible.
Well, let's talk about it, Cody. I kind of teased it last time I talked about this game. Was it kind of a easy skating across the carpet kind of thing? But Desert Dogs put up a fight, I would say. And so I want to ask you what you saw as the Saskatchewan Rush were able to eventually beat the Desert Dogs in Saskatoon. Break the game down for us, please, the best way you know how.
Oh, that was like 7 weeks ago now. No, again, that was,
Oh,
hey, I think Saskatchewan kind of got off to a poor start for their standards. It wasn't like they were terrible, but Vegas was the one throwing more punches. Yes, Zach Greer, stung a couple of corners early, but really the final 45 minutes of that game and mostly into that second quarter, I think that's where Saskatchewan really flexed. You score 8 straight goals, you probably should win the game. And Saskatchewan was able to hold on as well. Even you got to give Vegas some credit though. Like they didn't quit. Second, half, Landon Kells was phenomenal. Started making some big saves, gave his team a chance to win. I thought they were impressive. I thought Jack Hanna, Charlie Bertrand looked great out on the floor. Like they've got a future there. That's a team that's going to be problem in a couple of years here. I really do believe watching them and seeing Sean Williams' squad, like they're building something special in Vegas. But they're still not Saskatchewan. You still don't have Mark Matthews with a 12-point game. You still don't have Robert Church, 5 goals. Austin Madrona kind of gets off the schneid, has his first hat trick. Like it was a team effort top to bottom. I think defensively, you get a boost from having Ryan Dilks back there. Obviously, Bouquet made some big saves. But for Saskatchewan, you're coming off of a bye week, so you do expect that slow start. And you also had some mental errors as well that I'm sure they want to clean up going into Vancouver this weekend.
before we touch on the Vancouver game, I'll have to ask you more specifically. You mentioned a couple guys had a hat trick. Tell me, you mentioned you had a tweet on your obviously regular Twitter page where you talked about 2 young guys stepping up. I want you to expand on those guys a little bit more.
2 young guys stepping
I
up.
think
Now I got to see
one
the
guy was a
tweet.
rookie.
Madronic and Boudreau, I
There you
believe,
go.
right? That would be the 2 you're
Yeah.
referencing. Okay, yeah,
Yes.
I thought Madronic was good. I thought he had the ball, a little bit more than he has in previous games. And Mark Matthews was talking after the game about just watching film and seeing how open Madronic was at times, and they weren't utilizing him. So seeing him get a couple more looks, I think that's good, and I think that just goes to show how well he's been playing, despite the points not really being there. So it's nice to see that get recognized. And then Jake Boudreau, I thought he was awesome as well. He had a couple of assists. He had a couple of good looks in transition. And that's the Boudreau we saw in preseason. He's a guy who can use his feet. He's got offensive ability, but he's also very tenacious in the D zone. And I thought that was, definitely his best NLL game to date.
I love it. I love that when the young guys are stepping up as well as the Mark Matthews, Alex Bouquets, etc. Let's get into that Vancouver game. The new look Vancouver Warriors, for lack of a better term, obviously. That team did not look good against Panther City and looked so bad they got rid of Mitch Jones and have started the rebuild officially. What should Saskatchewan expect in Vancouver? I mean, is it going to be easy? I hate using that word again. Or do you see something else happening?
There's never an easy game in the NLL. I mean, once you're up 20-7, sure, you can coast a little bit, but generally there's no free spaces on the bingo card in this league. So I think from a Saskatchewan standpoint, you almost have to be ready to see a more motivated Vancouver side, not a team that's checked out, because now you're going to see a lot of guys playing for jobs, playing to prove that they belong in this league and they're not just fill-ins. You've also got guys who maybe do want to be moved, and so they're playing to prove, hey, I can make an impact on whatever team I get sent to. Like, there's a lot of different variables here, and I think Vancouver's an interesting team where they're kind of one foot in the water on this rebuild right now. Like, with Mitch Jones out, I mean, he could sign right
Right.
back there as a free agent. We have zero clue what happens this summer. But do they continue to get younger? Do they continue to move on from some of these older guys? Like, I think that is the next steps if you want to go for a rebuild, because you've also got other pieces that you could probably move for something like Kyle Killen. Doesn't trade out east make sense for him? Keegan Ball, depending on what his work situation's like, are teams knocking the well, I know teams are knocking the doors on him. And I think that's going to be a guy whose name keeps getting tossed around. And then your goaltending situation, you want to roll with Walsh, but you probably need a better, leader in there very soon. Or it doesn't have to be, you can't bring in just a 1A and sit Walsh on the bench, but you need a mentor. You need someone who's, been there and done that can help the young kid along, as it is going to be a long rest of the season for them, just the way it's looking. But that's my breakdown of the Vancouver Warriors.
I'll throw a name out there, a goaltender that's been there I can think of is Frank Chiliano. I mean, he's kind of lost his job to Rillieri in San Diego,
I
right?
don't think San Diego's ready to move on with him yet. And again, I
Right.
have zero inside information
Right.
on what Chiliano's going to end up doing. But again, with the likes of Curtis Dixon, Dane Doby, Kevin Crowley, like, they're in a win now mode. And so I don't think it makes sense to move on from a guy to roll with he's not a rookie, a Wrigley, or he's not a rookie, but he's a young guy. He's an unproven
Right.
starter in the league so far. He has been playing better. He should get the reins, but you still need that 1B. And I think that's where Shiliano is. So I don't know. It'll be interesting. Like, I wonder if Philly doesn't have success and are on the verge of missing the playoffs, do they consider moving on from Zach Higgins, who was playing summer ball out west? Like, it's a
Mhm.
goaltender, Vancouver. It's not that Walsh isn't going to be a guaranteed starter in the league, but if you've got the opportunity and you're going to be, going for a rebuild, you might as well go all in on that and find yourself a goaltender who will backstop some of these rookies for the next few years. So it'll be interesting to see. I think there's going to be a lot of moves this year. I really do.
I love it. As an NLL fan, I love it. Let's switch though, because unfortunately, a lacrosse league that we touched on when you were on the show a while ago now folded after about a month. The Professional Box Lacrosse Association, the PBLA, is done. Used a lot of wordplay to basically say we shut it down for the year, although they try to use the word postpone a few times and inconsistently. What was your thoughts on what the PBLA was and what it could have been and what happened?
Oh, that's a loaded question, Mike. I'll try to
Right.
answer this without getting myself in trouble. And again, I did throw the article out there too, which was written before the PBLA had folded. I just got to double, clarify on that. I know I had a couple of people thinking I was taking a pot shot at them, but I had that article done long before it was only published of recent. But it's kind of one of those things where not even half. It's there's some people who are like, "Oh, it's the haters that are the reason it failed." Some people don't want to see lacrosse succeed. And I really don't think that that's the case at all. I think that's almost unfair to throw that on certain players that are
Right.
saying, "Oh, shocker, it failed." Because I think from a reasonable perspective, and they will say, "Hey, we lost our main funding source." Whatever the actual reason may be, that's neither here nor there. The issue was it wasn't a sustainable model from the get-go unless you were ready to lose probably $1 million+, right? So that's a huge investment if you're not filling barns, if you're not getting big sponsorships, huge donors, whatever it may be. It just didn't feel like a sustainable model from the get-go. And that was my biggest concern. I was happy to see them have some success start to build on that. It was good for guys to get that professional experience, hopefully make some money as long as everyone gets paid up, right? Like I think that that is great for the game. That's going to help the game because it
Right.
gives players something to shoot for. But if it's not sustainable, what are we doing here? It's 4 weeks and it's gone. Now it looks like, I mean, if you're a football guy in the States, the AAF, like there was the XFL, like leagues like that folding midway through. It is such a bad look for the sport. As a Canadian, obviously we've got the CFL up here, as you would know. Like that's lasted. It's been sustainable. It's not the best product in the world. It's sustainable though. But at least it didn't fold midway through like their first season, because that's a tough look. And again, it isn't a great look on pro box lacrosse. But as I've said before, there's other options. I think what the Arena Lacrosse League is doing is a step in the right direction. But it would be nice to see a more formal or more competitive box lacrosse league that isn't just about getting guys paid, but actually developing players to the next level, which or to the highest level, which is the NLL.
I have to take a shot at this. Are we going to see any Rough Riders games in the future? Talk about the CFL here.
No, that's the old one. That's the Ottawa Rough Riders, Saskatchewan Rough Riders. Funny times. The
So is
Rough Riders
Saskatchewan
are
now in the CFL?
Well, no, they're still the Rough Riders, but the Ottawa Rough
Oh,
Riders are
that's
are gone.
that's
Saskatchewan's
sad.
at a little bit of shambles, though. I don't know what the heck's happening down in Regina, but it's not the biggest CFL insider here, but it seems like they're kind of spinning their tires.
Well, back to lacrosse here. You kind of right. You kind of mentioned at the end of that about the developmental stuff, and that was one thing I personally appreciate a bunch about your article on Lax Metrics. Shout out to Cooper Perkins, by the way. Tell me, because you broke it down a little bit, give me a little bit more insight into what you said about what you compare this potential developmental league to. Because I thought it was a great analysis.
Well, I don't think that there's anything you could exactly compare it to. I think it's more so you almost have to take some of the best parts of a little bit of what everyone's doing right now and turn it into one entity. And that's the biggest thing where we see it with other leagues. I think everything outside of the NFL has a feeder system, and the NFL's got college football, which is pretty much a 5-6 year feeder system. That's
Right.
just been an automatic lock for them. And hey, they got the system. Good for them. But I mean, you look down, the NHL goes to the AHL, ECHL, SPHL, FPHL, baseball's AAA, AA, single A. Like everything has that next step. MLS even has next pro now, which is basically it's kind of just an unsalary capped version where teams have their own choice of sign whoever you want. If you're going for wins and to make money, do that. If you want to just develop players, put that as your focus. That's totally fine too. So I think it's a hybrid of a little bit of everything. And I think that per the article, I really feel the NLL has that option. One of the things
Agreed.
that really gets me is all these players getting picked up and released and having no place to go. Maybe they're playing Tuesday night drop in. Maybe they're playing in a 4-on-4 league. Maybe they are moving out to BC or Ontario to play in the Arena Lacrosse League where they're paying to play already. So I feel like it would just make sense for the NLL to throw something together and at least give teams the option. If a team wants to back out, whatever. I don't think we're talking about any crazy resources here, though. And I think that end of the day, it's the development that should be the priority. So if it does cost you something, which I generally think teams would all make money off of this if run properly, but if it does cost you something, it's costing you in development. So you're keeping those draft picks committed. You're keeping those practiced players, interested, intrigued, keeping them in shape, keeping them in game form during the season. And it doesn't come at a huge cost. It doesn't come at a huge time commitment. Like, you don't need guys quitting their jobs. You don't need guys doing anything crazy as long as you put it into a sustainable format where guys are playing 2 games a weekend. It's a short season. It's during the NLL season. So they're playing those high level games. They're playing NLL rules. You're developing coaches. You're developing refs. And end of the day, I think it would just better the NLL. Like, people want more lacrosse, so you can give it to them in that fashion. And as well, I think that these teams could save a little bit of money by shaving off the practice rosters, which it's good for those guys to get the practices, but why can't they practice if they're on the farm team and living in Saskatoon?
Right.
Like what would really stop them, or why would the NLL want to stop them from practicing if they're living in market already? Because they're not going to play games. Like I think of, and it's not to throw anyone under the bus, but I'll use Saskatchewan as an example, like a Keegan White or Wyatt Hawks. Like they haven't played games in, we're going on 6-7 months, maybe long. I'm not a math guy. Maybe it was August,
It
September. Like,
hurts their
but like
development, yeah.
that's their development. So now they're not playing a single game. That if they get called up mid-season, this is their first game in 6-7 months. Versus if they're on the farm team and they have one weekend in January where they're playing 2 games. Now they're getting game time in. So when they have to make that, if they get that call up to the NLL, they're going to be more ready. They're going to be sharper. They're going to be better. And I think that just makes the league better. It's stronger as a whole.
I would completely agree with that. I'm proposing the NLPL, the National Lacrosse Prospects League, would have a nice little ring to it. I think Commissioner Bradford, I've been a big supporter of him. I think he would enjoy that developmental league. And I think you made a great point. I highly recommend the article. And I look forward to your radio call this weekend in Vancouver.
Thanks, Mike. Always a pleasure talking to you.
I appreciate you, Cody Janzen. Cody Janzen, everybody. Have a good one, man. All righty. When I come back, I have one more announcement to make. It's our NLL Game of the Week. What do you think it should be? Why don't you comment below and let me know? When I come back, though, we'll tell you what ours is on Daily Dive. We know the Monday through Friday grind can feel long, but our friends at B-Res Coffee Company are here to give you that extra boost of energy. With a ton of blends to choose from, including new blends recently announced, B-Res Coffee is sure to elevate your daily routine, and it's our go-to coffee now. To check it out for yourself, go click the link in our bio and get yourself a sample pack. Don't forget to use the promo code DailyDive when checking out at B-Res Coffee Company. And don't forget to follow them for the latest announcements on flavors at B-Res Coffee CO. That's B-R-E-Z Coffee CO. So what is our last brew of today? It's our Daily Dive Game of the Week. And this week is another rematch because we love those good old-fashioned rivalries. We know this one is a pretty good one, especially considering both teams have a chance to be number one in the Eastern Conference if they win this weekend. It is the 6-1 Rochester Nighthawks at the 6-2 Buffalo Bandits. Last time these two teams played, obviously Rochester did win. But now following a hot stretch for the Bandits and a first loss of the season for the Nighthawks, it seems the Bandits have all the ammo and all the things going for them. So we'll have to see how that game plays out against for first place in the Eastern Conference. It's Saturday. This Saturday for Week 10. Can you believe we're already in Week 10 of the NLL? Good Lord. I love covering and talking about this league. And I know Renee Washington, our awesome host, does too. We wish her the best this rest of this week. And we will see her back next week, of course. For her and for every guest that we have, including guests like Cody Janzen, I am Michael Carbellis saying be sure to follow Daily Dive at Daily Dive Lax. Subscribe to our YouTube and click the link tree in our bio to see our shop, Fanatics, B-Res Coffee Company. It's all right there. Thanks so much for tuning in. You guys have a great rest of your day. We'll dive into more lacrosse tomorrow. Have a good one.